Good evening, this is Newsline. I'm Michael Chagani. Tonight, a very, very special guest indeed, Mr. Chief Executive Siwa Leung. Thank you, Mr. Chief. Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Leung. I know these are very trying times for Hong Kong, so thank you for taking the time out to do this interview with us on Newsline. And as you notice, the viewers notice, we're here in Government House, not in your regular office in Admiralty, because that was some days ago you were prevented from going there. You know, as the Chief Executive of Hong Kong, do you find it humiliating or not right that you cannot even go to your office?
We've been exercising maximum tolerance and patience. We know that to work out a solution, to put an end to this problem, we need time. And we need time to talk to the people, particularly young students, who are occupying the main thoroughfares of Hong Kong.
You don't mind not being able to go?
I don't mind. I don't mind at all. What I want is to see a peaceful and a meaningful end to this problem.
Well, a peaceful and meaningful end. It's been going on now for 22 days. Yes. We saw in the past 2 nights in Mong Kok, those confrontations were anything but peaceful. As you know, each side is blaming the other side. The protesters are blaming you, Mr. Siwa Leung, the Chief Executive, and the government and the police for provoking the violence. And people are saying that you, as the Chief Executive, have failed in your duty to rule and to govern Hong Kong effectively. Would you say you have failed?
As the Chief Executive of Hong Kong, I have a constitutional duty to govern Hong Kong according to the laws of Hong Kong, which include the basic law.
Which I see you have right there.
Yes, I have it right with me, because it is important to keep Hong Kong a law-abiding society, and then we uphold the rule of law in Hong Kong. You talk about Mong Kok. As we all know, Mong Kok is not exactly the most genteel part of Hong Kong. Hong Kong, generally speaking, has a very low and falling crime rate. But by comparison, I have to say, by comparison, Mong Kok is different. And the forces, political or otherwise, operating in Mong Kok are very different too. Now, Mong Kok is not the only district that the police managed to clear the roads in the past week. The police managed to clear certain roads in Central, in Queensway, in Causeway Bay, and so on. And the police did not meet with the kind of disturbance afterwards that you mentioned. So Mong Kok is a very different situation. And as far as the police are concerned, again, they have a duty.
But you don't accept that you have ruled Hong Kong, governed Hong Kong ineffectively?
Well, we need to look at the root.
And you have divided society?
We need to look at the root of the problem. The dispute is over the method of electing Chief Executive in 2017. Now, let me put this on record, particularly for parts of the community who are not very familiar with the basic law. I might just add that in the past 3 weeks, ordinary people of Hong Kong who were out there in the streets that were occupied by the students and other people, talked to them, talked to the occupiers, and asked them, what do you think is the problem? They somehow feel that universal suffrage has been denied by the National People's Congress Standing Committee decision, which is not the case. To the contrary, the National People's Congress Special Committee decided on the 31st of August in their decision to give Hong Kong universal suffrage according to the basic law. Now, thus the central authority, National People's Congress, have this power. It is not a power taken away from Hong Kong, it is a power specified in the basic law. Annex 1 to the basic law says, I promise you, I'll just quote this and maybe another article in the basic law very quickly. If there's a need to amend the method for selecting the Chief Executive for the terms subsequent to the year 2007, such amendments must be made with the endorsement of a 2/3 majority of all the members of the Legislative Council and the consent of the Chief Executive, and they shall be reported to the Standing Committee of the National People's Congress for approval. It is approval. So the Standing Committee of the NPC does have the power to approve or not to approve, much in the same way as the 1/3 minority of LegCo having the power of passing or not passing such resolution. So it is not exactly Hong Kong government matter. It is a matter between
The central government.
The Legislative Council and the National People's Congress.
Right.
People have to understand this. Now, when I came to office, I took an oath. Mm-hmm. In my oath, I swore to uphold the laws of Hong Kong, including the Basic Law. And the reason why I wanted to take some of your time to read out this paragraph of the Basic Law to remind the people that we need to go forward to implement universal suffrage according to the Basic Law and relevant NPCSC decisions.
Okay. Now, Mr. Chief Executive, you've said that you've quoted the Basic Law here, but the message that the world community now sees is that a communist government in China has denied Hong Kong what is now being described as genuine or true democracy. Now, most people or many people in Hong Kong, you cannot deny, feel that their wishes for genuine democracy has been overruled by the National People's Congress.
The students or the students who took up occupation in parts of Hong Kong and their supporters have defined genuine universal suffrage as universal suffrage that has civic nomination. Now, civic nomination is not provided for in the Basic Law. In fact, the legal professions in Hong Kong have categorically stated quite a few months ago that civic nomination is not in keeping with the provisions of the Basic Law, because the Basic Law says that universal suffrage will be implemented in Hong Kong upon nomination by a nominating committee. And this is what the National People's Congress Standing Committee said in their decision on the 31st of August. So we have a situation where one side wants civic nomination, and the Basic Law doesn't allow for it. And therefore, some students have actually come out to say that we should amend the Basic Law. Now, we all know
that's
that
never going to happen.
Ever since the Basic Law was promulgated in 1990 and came into force in 1997, it has not been amended.
Well, that's fine, but you know, why is it, Mr. Chief Executive, that the National People's Congress, the central government, they know the wishes of people in Hong Kong. They have seen for the past 3 weeks what has happened in Hong Kong. Why is it so difficult for them to say, no, we will stand by our ruling, as you pointed out, on August 31st, instead of listening to Hong Kong people and say, all right, if that's what you want, we'll change it?
A constitutional reform of this nature and scale is pretty unprecedented in Hong Kong and in the world at large. And we could expect controversies. As you said, the central authorities, including Central People's Government and the National People's Congress, are fully aware of the very different views in the different sectors of the community. The students' views are not the only views in Hong Kong. If you read the report submitted to the Central People's Government by the Hong Kong government at the end of 5-month-long consultation, you see very, very different views. But the students and the supporters have taken to the streets of Hong Kong, literally speaking, to drive home their very strong message that they want civic nomination.
That's not the only thing they want. They want to have a system where they feel that they have a genuine choice in selecting candidates to become Chief Executive.
Michael, it is a very major part of what they want, civic nomination. And they said without civic nomination, then the 2 or 3 candidates that will face the electorate in 2017 would not be the candidates they want.
Can you appease them to a certain extent, Mr. Chief Executive? They have also said that, please, you have seen what has happened in Hong Kong. Please, send another report reflecting what has happened to Hong Kong. I can't see any reason why you cannot do that. It doesn't have to be part of the 5-part process for constitutional reform in Hong Kong. Just send a report and say, okay, the people of Hong Kong have occupied many places. They're very angry. They want a genuine choice. Please listen.
It is a very difficult decision.
Why is it difficult to send a report?
It might sound easy to you or to the students, but already we have heard other sectors of Hong Kong saying, what about our views? We have new ideas too. Or if you send a supplementary report covering the views of one sector of Hong Kong, what about ours? Why don't you highlight our views as well? We have to go forward. And I think it is important for the students and the supporters to realize that when we carry out the same round of consultation, on the basis of the NPC Standing Committee decision on the 31st of August, there will be plenty of room for us to talk about how we can structure a nomination system so that we have genuine choice of candidates come 2017. The decision handed down by the NPCSC is only a framework decision. There will be a lot of areas where we need to talk about as to, for example, the actual composition of the nominating committee and the method of electing members onto this committee.
Well, you have said that there are two things you have now made very clear. There will not be another report to the National People's Congress, that you have to stick to the National People's Congress decision. You must stick to the basic law. You have said these things over and over again. There will be a dialogue with the students on Tuesday. Carrie Lam, the Chief Secretary, will be there. If that's what you have said, and the students have said, and you pointed out that they want civic nomination, then I cannot see how the two of you can come together and find a solution to this problem that we're having now.
Well, we want to listen to the students face to face, and this is why a face-to-face dialogue is important.
But it's not going to produce anything.
Well, we're hopeful that we will produce anything, and that's why we want to...
But you will not yield on your positions.
We cannot turn something that is not unlawful in the basic law into a lawful exercise. It is very important that we do not put aside the basic law, because the basic law is the foundation of Hong Kong's return to China and the foundation of the one country, two systems principle.
So now, if there is not going to be, I feel that there's not going to be any progress. If there isn't any progress, today is the 22nd day we've had this Occupy movement. Can you sit here now and guarantee, I'm not talking about the People's Liberation Army, I'm not talking about the PLA, I'm talking about, can you sit here and guarantee, tell the people of Hong Kong that there will not be a violent crackdown?
Well, on the Monday, which was about a week ago, we had intelligence and we saw the early actions of that plan, a plan on the part of certain parts of Hong Kong to clear Queensway by themselves. It would be an action against the occupiers on Queensway. It was going to be a large-scale action, and there will be serious clashes by, for example, the transport sector. Heavy vehicles were being deployed and so on and so forth. And luckily, the police managed to clear Queensway, reopen the road in Queensway in time to avoid this from happening. So it isn't just a question of whether the police or Hong Kong government want to clear or reopen these roads. It is also a question of preventing clashes between parts of the community. We saw that in Mong Kok. We want to stop it from happening.
I'll just stop you just for a moment there. More of Newsline soon, don't go away. Thanks for staying with the Newsline. This is Michael Chagani, and I've got with me Mr. Siwa Leung, the Chief Executive of Hong Kong. Now, Mr. Chief Executive, I was just asking you before the break. I'm not talking about the PLA. I'm just saying, it's gone on for 22 days now. Can you say here and now that whatever happens, there will not be a violent police crackdown on the demonstrators?
In the past 3 weeks, and going on as much as possible, the Hong Kong government and the police force have exercised extreme tolerance and patience. That's what we have done, and that's what we will continue to do. But at
you
the same
will
time,
continue to do that.
We will continue to do that. But at the same time, I have to say this, both the Hong Kong government and the police have a responsibility to uphold the law of Hong Kong. I don't know how many rounds there will be. The students have requested that we have multiple rounds of dialogue, and how long these multiple rounds of dialogue will take. But there are three things that I stated a few days ago at a stand-up press conference that the Hong Kong government will have to do in parallel. One is to restore law and order in Hong Kong as soon as possible, which is important for other parts of the community as well. We are, after all, serving the entire community, and secondly, to engage the students in a face-to-face dialogue, which we are doing on Tuesday. And thirdly, we want to go forward with the implementation of universal suffrage in 2017, and therefore we like to go ahead with the second round of consultation to achieve that in the last quarter of this year.
So, but you haven't answered the question. Will there be a violent crackdown? You said multiple rounds of talks. You have to observe law and order in Hong Kong. How do you do that? Will the police one day say, okay, enough is enough, it's gone on for too long? How long can you tolerate this?
No, I shan't use the word crackdown. You know, the police have been put in a rather impossible position. They have an impossible job to do, maintaining law and order in the neighborhoods that are being affected. And the last thing we want to see is clash between people in the
But you have to clear the roads one day soon.
In the neighborhoods that hold very different views on the question of Occupy Central.
But you have to clear the streets one day soon, right?
Well, it is a matter of, as I said, it is a matter of time. And so far, and as far as I'm concerned going forward, we will continue to exercise the kind of patience and tolerance that we have in the last 3 weeks.
Okay. Now, you know, a Chinese mainland official, Wang Yang, did say that this was a color revolution fomented by external forces. And I know you have said that this is not a color revolution. Many people, especially mainland officials, have said external forces are behind this. Do you have any proof whatsoever that external forces are behind this?
There is obviously participation by people, organizations from outside of Hong Kong in politics in Hong Kong over a long time. And this is not the only time when they do it. And this is not an exception either.
Mm-hmm. So you are saying that there are external forces involved in this whole movement?
There are external forces, yes.
From which country?
Well, from different countries in different parts of the world. I shan't go into details, but this is not entirely a domestic movement.
So this movement, you say, are being in some ways, controlled by external forces?
I shouldn't use the word control. No one
instigated.
No one can now control the movement. I have said that this is a political movement that has got out of hand.
Control. But Mr. Wang Yang says it is a color revolution.
It has got out of control even for people who started it, for people who planned it, for people who scripted it. You now see them still writing articles about it or appearing in some of these neighborhoods that are being occupied, and they talk to the people as recent as last night. But they cannot end the movement, which is a major concern.
So you have said it's a movement that is spun out of control. Mr. Wang Yang says it is a color revolution. Is there disagreement between you and the central government?
Well, this is how I see things in Hong Kong. It was started in the form of an article in January last year. The whole thing developed and took on its own life. And then on the 28th of September, we saw obvious signs that people who started it could not control it.
Okay, now I'm going to move. The last time I had you on this show, Mr. Chief Executive, you had told me that you planned to run in 2017. I mean, that is now miles and miles ago, a long time ago. Things have changed quite dramatically. You have said now that your resignation will not solve anything because people are saying you should resign, and you've said that's not going to solve the problem at all. I agree with you. But can you say now, as a sweetener to the people of Hong Kong, that you will not run in 2017?
I'm afraid I have to correct you, Michael. I don't think I said I would run in 2017. No one would declare
you did say
candidacy.
That.
No, I don't. I didn't, and I haven't been saying that at all. And no candidate would declare his candidature. How many years? 3 years in advance of any election. And it is not the thing that's on my mind.
Will you run in 2017? If you say you won't run, many people will be very happy and say, all right, that's a sweetener to them.
I don't think anyone would answer that kind of question. No candidate for any election that will take place in 3 years' time.
So you're not ruling out that you will run?
Answer your question.
You're not ruling out that you will run?
I'm not giving you an answer.
All right, okay. Now, so your popularity, as you know, has been quite low, and it's been lower than the other previous two chief executives. Why do you think that is so? People say you are a polarizing figure, you're a divisive figure. Do you see yourself as a polarizing figure?
No, I don't at all. In fact, I've achieved quite a few things, particularly in the relations between Hong Kong and the mainland Hong Kong and the central authorities. I probably have to do more communicating, probably have to sort of come onto your program.
How do you feel you have failed in communicating with the people of Hong Kong? Why do you think that your popularity rating is always so low? Why do you feel that people find you, if I may use the word, not a very likable person?
Well, if you look at the question of housing, for example, we all know how long it takes to produce a housing unit, probably anything upwards of 5 years. I came into office 2 years ago when the supply of housing was already
I know you've
very,
done a
very
lot of
short.
things for housing and other social issues.
Yes,
Yet
and I need to talk to the people a bit more to make sure that people understand that we need to make hard choices. For example, in producing development land, so that we can build housing units on them, and we need to strike a balance between, for example, maintaining low density, looking after environment, looking after landscape and cityscape and so on and so forth, and at the same time increasing housing supply. Now these are important but difficult choices. Now I did not decide to run for this position knowing that it's going to be smooth sailing, because Hong Kong wasn't getting smooth sailing.
Would you run again had you known what was going to happen? Would you have run had you known this was going to happen?
No, yes, I would.
You would have run?
Yes, I would.
Even if you know
because
this is all going to happen, you would have run?
Because Hong Kong needed help. Hong Kong needs help, and Hong Kong will continue to need help. I'm not the kind of person who would shrug off challenges. I'm not the kind of person who would sit on my hands and say, hey, let's paper over the cracks and let the next guy deal with it.
Okay, now, I want to ask you a couple more questions. I'm running out of time. How do you think the central government now views Hong Kong? After all this that has happened, will they view Hong Kong in a different way? Will they feel that the dream of democracy would have even been lessened because they see that this has happened in Hong Kong?
Well, Hong Kong is a very transparent society, and the central government, including the National People's Congress, which handed down the August decision, are very much on top of the situation. They're fully aware of what's happening in Hong Kong and the reasons behind the events that we are.
Will they write us off?
That we are seeing. They've expressed serious concern. And it is no secret. There have been so many articles and commentaries and reports in, for example, the People's Daily and CCTV, so we can all read about it. And they have expressed serious concern about the situation in Hong Kong, but at the same time, they've expressed full confidence in myself and in the Hong Kong SAR government to tackle the situation.
Okay.
Now, Hong Kong has been fortunate so far for the Hong Kong SAR government, and myself included, to have such high level of confidence
and support for you.
And support.
Okay, now, just a couple more questions. How do you think the world will see us now after this has happened? Is there going to be a different world view of us?
Well, I hope the world will see two things. One is the patience and tolerance on the part of the police force, which are very different from the degree of patience and tolerance that other police forces in other countries, including Western democratic countries, have.
What I meant was, will it hurt our economy?
No, secondly, I think the world will see that Hong Kong is a law-abiding society after all, and law and order will be restored as soon as possible.
Okay. Last question, what is the end game? How do you see the end game here?
I don't like to guess.
Would we be ungovernable? Because nobody thinks that the political reform package will pass for 2017.
I have a responsibility to manage. I have a responsibility to deliver universal suffrage in Hong Kong in 2017. So I like to talk to the students, and I like to talk to the rest of Hong Kong so that we have universal suffrage 2017 according
Do you
to
think
the
that's
basic,
going to happen?
according to the basic law, and I'll work very hard to achieve it.
Will it happen?
Milestone. It'll be a milestone, important milestone in the history of Hong Kong.
Will it happen? Last question, very quickly. Will it happen?
I'm not guessing. I'm working for it. I hope it will happen.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Chief Executive. And thanks for watching Newsline. See you next week. Good evening.